My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today, what we're going to be talking about is what's going on in Eagle River, Alaska, as far as real estate goes. I know there's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now as far as oil prices, inflation, and this little thing that we call real estate. But the purpose of this update is to give you as much clarity as I can to help you to make good, informed decisions moving forward. So we're going to be looking specifically at the residential, the condo, and the multifamily market right here in Eagle River. But before we get started, give this video a like and subscribe. Of course, if you haven't done so already, what are you even doing with your life? So let's go ahead and get going and look first at what's going on in the residential market. Now, the first thing that we need to look at is the residential market for the active inventory. This is the number of properties that are available on the market for you to purchase. This time last year, not a whole lot to pick from. It was 48. Now this year there are 31. So you heard that correctly. There's less inventory than we did the year before. And this is significant, not really because of the cut from the year before, but compared to the cut that we had from a couple of years before. Because usually around this time of year, we'll see about 100, 110, maybe 120 properties available on the market. Now it's about 30. So you see that the amount of inventory available in Eagle River is down to about a third or a quarter even of what it usually is this time of year. So that's number one. Inventory is really reduced here in Eagle River. The next thing that we're seeing is that even though the inventory is really compressed, the number of properties that have actually sold went from 22 the year before to 33. So that's is really indicative of the amount of demand that we have, and means that if you're going to be buying a home in the near future, you got to be ready to compete, because even though the inventory is really low, the number of properties that are actually selling still pretty high. So you got to be ready to compete, and compete hard if you see something. Now, as you would expect, the average sold price has increased a little bit from where we saw this time last year. Even just this time last year, average sold price was roughly about $411,000. Now it's about $424,000. So you are seeing an increase, not as drastic as you would see with other times a year. So let's keep an eye on that moving forward. Not particularly out of season from what we would expect though. Now, the next part of the market that we're going to look at is the condo market. This isn't a particularly huge part of the market here in Eagle River. It's certainly way more popular than you would find in places like the Mat-Su Valley, but this is a growing segment of the market here, so we need to look at it. So this time last year, there were 10 condos that were available for sale. This year, there are 6 condos that are available for sale. So kind of a diminishing pool there, but it wasn't very big to start with. Now, the next thing we see on the condo market, this time last year, 2 condos sold. This year, no condos sold. So no condos sold in the month of February. Now, the next thing that we're going to see here for the average sold price, there's not going to be an average sold price for the month of February just because nothing sold, but we see that there was definitely an increase for the average sold price for condos in Eagle River for the month of January, because it went up by about I think it went up to about 242,000, which is definitely an increase over the year before. But like I said, we're just waiting to see what else sells here in the upcoming month in March to get a much better sense for what's going on and the average sold price for the rest of the year though. Let's take a break here real quick. For those of you who've been watching for a while, you do know that I have a number of relocation and seller guides for those of you who are considering either moving up here to Alaska or moving out of Alaska, or perhaps just moving somewhere within Alaska to get a bit of an upgrade on your current home. If this kind of matches whatever it is that you're trying to do either way, feel free to reach out to me on my website down below, and just make sure you indicate in the comment section what exactly it is that I can help you with. Because if you're wanting to do something involving real estate, chances are good I've got some kind of guide to help you do it. So just reach out to me and let me know what you're doing, and be happy to send that over to you. Now, let's go and finish up by looking what's happening as far as the multifamily market here in Eagle River. So multifamily properties are going to be very popular in Eagle River. They're going to be very desirable, I should say, which means that if you're wanting to invest somewhere with a low cap rate, Eagle River is going to be the place to look. So not a whole lot of landlords want to sell a property in Eagle River once they get it. So for that reason, that explains why there were only two multifamily properties that were available on the market this time last year. Now there is 1. So that's about what we would expect though. Now, the number of properties that actually sold in Eagle River for multifamily properties stayed the same. Last year it was 1, and this year it's 1 as well. I don't really like looking at what's going on in the average sold price for multifamily properties in Eagle River just because the data is so patchy because there's not a huge sample size. But we see that the average sold price this time last year was about $342,000. This year, $945,000. So there you go. Such a really low sample size, though, it's hard to actually draw anything from it because, again, we just had one property sell both years, so we're just comparing one property to another property, and obviously the property that sold this past year was way more valuable. Now let's go ahead and give you a summary for everything that's going on here. Now on the residential side, we see that there is a big compression on the number of properties that are actually available, and this is going to be a big driving force for us because interest rates still remain historically pretty low compared to where we were in previous times. So the demand is still going to be pretty high, and people are still going to be going out there and buying as aggressively as they can. Now the inventory, like I said, is down from the year before, but compared to the years before before we kind of got thrown off with COVID and everything else that's occurred since then, we see that the number of properties actually has been cut down by a third or even a quarter of what it was in past years. Now, for those of you in real estate who are watching this, you need to be aware that we crossed a certain threshold where we have the inventory so low, we can't keep selling more and more properties every year, which means that eventually the number of properties sold does start taking a dip, which means there's less and less business to go around. So if you're in real estate, you need to be aware of that, and you need to be able to prepare accordingly. Now, for those of you who are buyers, this means you need to jump on it as quickly as you possibly can, because we do know that interest rates are going to be going up. Prices are probably not going to be coming down anytime soon. Anyone who's predicting a market crash, I don't know where they're getting it. Honestly, it sounds like they're more clickbait than being good sources that are just going to tell you what the hard reality is, and that is that this is probably just going to continue. Okay, as long as the demand remains pretty high and the inventory remains low, this is just basic supply and demand. I'm not seeing a big market crash like everyone is predicting. Now, if you're a seller, this is good because you can get top dollar for your property, and more importantly, you can get good terms for your property. If you're an investor in Eagle River, good place to be looking to invest if you can find it. That's really the important thing right now. So for those that are coming onto the market, you need to look pretty closely and see why it is that they're selling, because Eagle River is pretty desirable as a place to own investment properties. So I sure hope this has been useful for you. If it has, make sure you give this video a like. If you have questions for me, reach out to me on my website down below, and be happy to help as best I can. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.